Let me tell you something from the female side of this dynamic. When a woman is interested, she's not confused, she's careful. She won't say what she wants because words make her vulnerable. Instead, she watches how a man handles ambiguity, whether he can stay present without reassurance, whether he can lead without instruction. Most men fail, not because they lack confidence, but because they wait too long. And when that happens, attraction doesn't turn into a conversation, it turns into withdrawal. In this video, I'm breaking down 8 signs women use to signal desire without ever saying it directly. These are the moments that separate men who get remembered from men who get replayed only in regret. Number 1. She brings up her wild past. When a woman starts talking about her crazy phase, her reckless nights, or the version of herself she claims she's outgrown, most men misread it completely. They assume she's just reminiscing. Or worse, they think she's confessing. She's doing neither. Women don't bring up wild stories by accident. They do it to seed an image, to place a version of themselves into your mind without ever having to claim it outright. It's a controlled reveal, a selective permission slip that says, "This side of me exists, and I'm letting you see it." Pay attention to the framing. She doesn't say it proudly, and she doesn't say it with shame. She says it casually, almost like she's testing how the story lands. That's because she's watching you while she talks. Not for approval, but for judgment. This is a reaction test. She's reading your face, your tone, your energy. Do you stiffen up? Do you moralize? Do you get awkward, curious in the wrong way? Or start asking for details like a tourist instead of a man? The moment you do, the frame shifts, and not in your favor. Here's the part most men miss. When a woman explains her past in a way that softens it, justifies it, or minimizes it, she's not closing that chapter. She's mentally checking whether it could open again. With you. Men who fail this moment think attraction disappears for no reason. It doesn't. It dies the second she feels judged, analyzed, or placed above you morally. Attraction also dies when a man treats her past like trivia instead of what it is, a signal. The correct response isn't fascination, it isn't reassurance, and it definitely isn't shock. It's composure, ease, a grounded reaction that says, "I can see this side of you without losing my balance." Because the truth is simple and uncomfortable. If she didn't want you to imagine her that way, she wouldn't have handed you the image. When a woman brings up her wild past, she's not looking backward. She's checking whether the future could feel just as alive. Number 2, she finds ways to isolate you. Women don't isolate themselves with men they feel neutral about. That never happens by accident. If you're out in a group and she keeps finding reasons to pull you aside, stepping outside for air, moving to a quieter corner, asking for your help away from everyone else, she's not being polite. She's not being random. She's changing the environment. And environment matters more to women than men realize. Before attraction can escalate, the setting has to support it. Noise, eyes, social pressure, those kill tension. Privacy, quiet, and focus amplify it. When a woman removes you from the group, she's not following emotion, she's preparing the conditions for it. This is where most men fail, not because they do something wrong, but because they do nothing at all. They keep the conversation safe, friendly, surface level. They assume the moment is casual instead of intentional. And in doing so, they force her to carry the entire emotional weight of the interaction. When that happens, attraction stalls. Here's the psychological truth. Women choose the setting before they choose the man. Isolation is her way of saying, "I'm comfortable enough with you to remove witnesses." That's not small, but it's also not a guarantee. It's an opening. If you treat that opening like coincidence, she reads you as passive. If you treat it like pressure, she pulls back. The balance is awareness without urgency, presence without overcorrection. Men who get this wrong often say the same thing later. I don't know what happened. Things were going great. Then it just faded. What actually happened is simple. She created space. He failed to fill it. When a woman isolates you, she's watching how you show up when there's nowhere to hide behind noise or people. She's asking a quiet question without words. Can you hold this moment? Or do I have to retreat? If you don't answer, she will. And she'll do it by walking away emotionally, long before she ever leaves physically. Number 3, she asks bold or suggestive questions. When a woman starts asking questions that feel slightly provocative, do you say that to every woman? Or, what's the craziest thing you've ever done? Most men think they're being evaluated on their answers. They're not. They're being evaluated on their presence. Those questions aren't curiosity. They're tests of confidence and composure. She's not fishing for information. She's checking whether you react or lead, whether you chase approval or stay grounded, whether you try to impress or invite tension. Here's what's really happening. She's nudging the interaction out of neutral territory and watching who takes control of the direction. If you rush to justify yourself, explain your intentions, or give a polished resume answer, you hand her the power. The energy flattens. The moment becomes safe. Attraction quietly leaks out. Women ask bold questions when they already feel something, but need to know if you can carry it without collapsing into performance. This is where many men self-sabotage. They mistake boldness for permission to overshare or seriousness for depth. They answer like they're in an interview instead of a moment. And the second the answer feels rehearsed, she knows she's dealing with a man who reacts instead of leads. The men who pass this test do something different. They stay playful without becoming slippery, calm without becoming dull. They let the question breathe, and then return it with energy and tact. Not defensively, not aggressively. Casually, as if nothing about the exchange threatens their frame. Because the real question she's asking is never spoken. If I push the edge a little, do you hold steady? When you do, the dynamic shifts. She stops testing and starts engaging. The curiosity flips direction. Now she's the one leaning in, not to evaluate, but to feel. Understand this clearly. Women don't get bold with men they've already dismissed. Bold questions are a doorway. What matters isn't how clever your answer sounds, but whether your energy says you belong on the other side of it. Number 4, late night texting. When a woman texts you late at night, it's not because she suddenly remembered you exist. Time is never neutral in attraction. Late night is when defenses drop, roles soften, the world goes quiet. And that's exactly why it matters. If she's reaching out during those hours, sending a casual, "What are you up to?" a random meme, or starting a conversation that doesn't need to happen, she's doing something very specific. She's testing access. Women don't text men late at night unless that man is already occupying mental space. She could scroll. She could sleep. She could text anyone. She chooses you because she wants to feel something, and she wants to see if you understand the moment she's creating. This is where many men misunderstand the signal. They respond like it's 2 p.m. Polite, friendly, dry. They ask logistical questions or drag the conversation into safe daylight energy. And in doing so, they flatten the subtext she carefully introduced. The window closes without a word being spoken about it. Here's the psychological layer most men miss. Late-night texting gives her plausible deniability. If things escalate, she didn't initiate. If they don't, she can tell herself she was just bored. That ambiguity protects her, but it also places the burden of awareness on you. If you don't read the timing, she reads that as emotional blindness. This isn't about pushing, it's about matching the frequency. Recognizing that the quiet hour, the relaxed tone, the unimportant excuse for reaching out, all of it is intentional. She's seeing whether you can meet her where she is without forcing clarity or pretending nothing is happening. Men who understand this don't overreact. They don't interrogate. They don't ignore it either. They stay present, grounded, and responsive to the energy, not the words. Because a late-night text is rarely just a text. It's a soft knock on the door, asking one silent question. Are you awake enough to feel this? Or should I close it? Number 5. She teases you as innocent. When a woman playfully questions whether you can handle her, or jokes that you seem too innocent for what she has in mind, most men hear teasing. What they miss is the challenge underneath it. This isn't humor for entertainment. It's pressure, applied lightly on purpose. Women use teasing like this to test emotional stability. She's watching what happens when she pushes your edge just a little. Do you flinch? Do you defend yourself? Do you rush to prove something? Or do you stay centered and unbothered? Because the moment you start explaining who you are, what you've done, or why she's wrong about you, that moment, you've lost ground. Here's the psychological reality. Teasing about innocence is a dominance test. It's her way of seeing whether you fold under implication or stand firm in ambiguity. Men who need to clarify are men who can be controlled. Men who don't need to explain are men who feel grounded in themselves. And women feel that immediately. The mistake most men make is taking the bait emotionally. They either get defensive or overly bold, swinging too far in the opposite direction to compensate. Both reactions communicate the same thing: instability. What she's actually drawn to is restraint with confidence. The man who doesn't rush to disprove anything. The man who lets the comment sit, maybe meets it with a calm smile or a quiet, grounded response that doesn't chase validation. Because now something shifts. When you don't collapse under the tease, she stops pushing. Not because she's bored, but because her curiosity has flipped direction. Instead of wondering if you're enough, she starts wondering who you really are. And that's where attraction deepens. Understand this clearly. She's not testing your experience. She's testing your frame, your ability to stay steady when she introduces uncertainty. If you hold it, she leans in emotionally. If you don't, she mentally categorizes you and moves on without explanation. Teasing isn't a joke, it's a mirror. And how you respond tells her everything she needs to know. Number 6, she compliments your scent. When a woman comments on how you smell or leans in closer than necessary to notice, it's easy for a man to dismiss it as politeness, a casual compliment, something insignificant. It's not. A woman's response to a man's scent is primal. It bypasses logic and goes straight to association, safety, attraction, familiarity. When she notices it, she's not evaluating your cologne. She's responding to how your presence lands in her body. That's why this sign is so telling. Women don't lean in, inhale deeply, or linger near a man they feel nothing for. If she does, she's already comfortable being physically close. More than that, she enjoys it. Your presence feels good to her nervous system, and that's not something she reasons herself into. This is also why scent creates memory. When she comments on it, borrows your jacket, or jokes about stealing your hoodie, she's subconsciously anchoring you to a feeling she wants to revisit later. Comfort mixed with tension. Familiarity mixed with curiosity. Most men miss this completely. They brush it off with a thank you and move on, treating it like small talk. In doing so, they ignore the emotional doorway she just opened. Because this wasn't about manners, it was about proximity, about whether you recognize when she's already stepped into your space. The deeper insight here is simple. When a woman notices your scent, she's already imagining closeness. Not hypothetically, physically. Her body is responding before her mind catches up. And she's watching what you do with that moment. Do you rush to fill the silence? Do you minimize it? Or do you stay grounded, comfortable in the closeness, letting the moment breathe without turning it awkward or mechanical? Attraction grows in those quiet seconds, in the absence of explanation, in the confidence to remain present without performing. This sign doesn't come with words like, I want you. It comes with proximity, breath, and instinct. And those rarely lie. Number 7. She slips suggestive details. When a woman casually mentions how she sleeps, what she wears at home, or how much she misses physical closeness, most men treat it like harmless oversharing. That's a mistake. She's not talking to fill space. She's placing images in your mind, on purpose. Notice how it's delivered. It's never dramatic, never direct. She says it offhandedly, almost carelessly, as if it just slipped out. That's intentional. This is how women introduce intimacy without having to own the intent behind it. Psychologically, this is called plausible deniability. She gets to test your awareness while protecting herself from vulnerability. If you react well, she can lean in. If you don't, she can tell herself it meant nothing. But make no mistake, she's watching. Details about sleeping in an oversized shirt, hating bras at home, craving touch, or how long it's been since she's felt close to someone are not neutral information. They're emotional probes. She's checking whether you can handle intimacy being suggested without it being spelled out. Most men fail here by doing one of two things. They either ignore it completely, pretending they didn't notice, or they react too directly, turning subtext into blunt commentary and killing the tension she was carefully building. Both responses signal the same flaw, a lack of attunement. What she's looking for is awareness without desperation, recognition without pressure, the ability to sit in implication without rushing to resolve it. Because when a woman introduces intimate details into conversation, she's already decided you're safe enough to imagine closeness with. What she hasn't decided yet is whether you're emotionally calibrated enough to stay grounded when intimacy enters the room quietly. This moment isn't about escalation. It's about perception. Do you hear what she's really saying beneath the words? Do you acknowledge the energy without forcing clarity? When you do, something shifts internally for her. She feels seen, but not chased, understood, but not cornered. And that's when curiosity deepens. Because now she knows. You didn't just hear the words. You understood the invitation hidden inside them. Number 8. She gives you the look. This one doesn't come with words. It doesn't need them. When a woman is truly drawn to you, there's a moment where the conversation slows, the noise fades, and something hangs in the air longer than it should. She looks at you, not quickly, not casually, but with a kind of stillness that feels deliberate. Her eyes linger, her breathing changes. There's a pause, as if she's waiting for something to happen. That's the look. It's not ordinary eye contact. It's deeper, slower, almost weighted. She might glance at your lips. She might hold the silence instead of filling it. She might give a faint smile that doesn't fully explain itself. In that moment, she's no longer testing through stories, questions, or hints. She's present, fully. Psychologically, this is the convergence point of everything that came before. The comfort, the curiosity, the isolation, the teasing, the subtle intimacy. All of it culminates here. And that's why this moment matters more than any other. Because now, there's no buffer left. No plausible deniability. Just awareness. Women don't give that look to men they feel neutral about. And they don't give it lightly. When it happens, she has already imagined what could come next. What she's waiting to see is whether you're grounded enough to stay with the moment instead of escaping into doubt. This is where most men fail, not because they lack desire, but because they lose confidence at the exact moment it's required. They overthink. They look away. They break the tension with unnecessary words. Or worse, they hesitate just long enough for her to emotionally retreat. And when that happens, attraction doesn't fade slowly. It collapses. Because hesitation at this point doesn't read as caution. It reads as uncertainty. And uncertainty feels unsafe to desire. When a woman gives you that look, she's not asking you to rush. She's asking you to hold your ground, to remain steady in the silence, to meet her gaze without flinching, to let the tension exist without immediately resolving it. That steadiness is what she's drawn to. The truth is, this moment will never announce itself. There's no countdown, no confirmation, just a quiet opening that only exists briefly. And when you step into it, calm, present, unshaken, you don't need to say anything at all, because she already has. Everything you've heard up to this point leads to one uncomfortable truth most men don't want to face. Women don't say, "I want you." They watch to see if you're capable of recognizing it without being told. Attraction doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself in patterns, through timing, proximity, tension, silence, and restraint. None of these signs mean anything on their own. But when several of them appear together, they form a language women speak fluently, and most men were never taught to read. And that's why so many men walk away confused. Not because the moment wasn't there, but because they didn't trust themselves enough to stay present when it was. Here's what matters. Not every signal is an invitation, and you shouldn't treat every interaction like one. But when you see these signs align, when the space is created, the tension is held, the testing stops, and the look appears, that's not coincidence. That's clarity. The men who succeed aren't aggressive. They're grounded. They don't rush. They don't freeze. They stay steady when the moment asks for presence instead of performance. If this helped you see things more clearly, subscribe. Not out of habit, but as a commitment to stop guessing and start understanding. Like the video if you're done missing moments you felt but didn't trust. And in the comments, be honest. How many times have you looked back and realized you felt it, but didn't know what to do with it? This isn't about tricks, it's about perception. Because men don't lose attraction by making the wrong move. They lose it by hesitating when everything is already in front of them. Learn to read the moment, and learn to stand your ground when it arrives.